In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the different game options available in Command P. To access the options menu, simply click on Game Options. Now, there are multiple different types of options depending on what you're trying to achieve and what you'd like to display on the screen. Keep in mind that some of these options are going to be redundant with some of the options inside of the menus. They're just a little bit easier to use here. The first option we have at the top here is going to be to use autosave. What this simply does is it sets it up so that your scenario will save itself at a predetermined interval. For example, if I were to say load up real quick, you'll notice that it saves at 20-second intervals here all the time, constantly updating. Keep in mind, whenever you're working with the autosave feature, you tend to have a situation where you're going to be using up a lot more computer cycles as well as a hard drive time in order for it to do those quick little saves back and forth. But it is a very useful tool if you want to rewind a particular action. After the autosave option, we have the ability to do a message log in a separate window. The message log is this large item located down here in the bottom of the screen. Now, if I wanted to, for example, separate this so that I could watch it on a different screen, I can select this option, and now it will actually break it off so that I can go ahead and drag it anywhere I need to. Keep in mind, once you have separated it to a different window, you can actually switch to a raw text version, which will display every single thing that happens in the mission directly, versus the interactive view where it's going to automatically separate it into specific categories. If I want to go ahead and disable that option, it's going to return the message log back to where it existed before. Next option is to show altitude in feet. If you choose to disable this option, what it will do is it'll go ahead and show altitudes in meters. The next thing you can take a look at is showing the speed of ground units in contacts. You can either do it in knots, miles per hour, or kilometers per hour. The next item is a little more complicated. It says map zooms in on mouse cursor. You'll notice if I hold my mouse over here and I roll my mouse back and forth, the map zooms in and out. If you select the option to zoom on map cursor, it will instead use the cursor as the center point for the zoom. So for example, if I were to close this menu and I want to zoom in on the ship, if I hold my mouse and then start wheeling my mouse, you'll notice that it starts to zoom in based on that. If I were to move my mouse over here and start zooming out, it will snap it out back that way. Again, that's going to be user preference. The next item we have is status image. This is simply going to be a small little image that's going to let you know what's going on with a particular unit when you select it. Again, we can have our little health, and we can have all those different items as well. Afterwards, we have allow switching to high performance power scheme. This simply will override Windows default battery settings to let it know that it needs to use high performance. After this one, we have log debug information to file. This is wonderfully useful for you when you're trying to go ahead and discover why there's a particular bug that you're having. This will save a file in the main folder for the purposes of actually taking a look at it. Below this, you're going to see fine-grained navigation, max distance, as well as threshold distance degrees. This simply dictates how aggressive the route finding routine should be as far as finding a path. For example, if I took a ship right here, we'll go ahead and get a nice and simple one just to demonstrate it. Say OSA, keep it nice and simple. Whoop, OSA rather. There we go. Go ahead and grab this one. I'm going to go ahead and order it to go through this block of land like this. Now, if I unpause, what it's going to do is it's actually going to calculate the optimum path in order to get along that particular distance. Now, depending on what I say as far as my navigational settings go, is going to dictate how aggressively it's going to attempt to calculate to go ahead and work its way around this large piece of land. You can see right now it's currently calculating. Our next option that we have under Game Options is going to bring us over to the map display. The map display is going to give us some control as far as the sonobuoy visibility, which is also duplicated in map settings, the reference point visibility, which is going to dictate how we can see our reference points. We're also going to have the ability to see the map cursor, which is that large box directly down and to the right of my current mouse pointer. We can decide if we want to show it on the cursor, we can decide to put it on the bottom of the screen down here, or we can disable it completely if we don't want to look at it. Below that, we have the ability to dictate what type of map symbols I have. Right now we have NTDS. If we wanted to, we could set this to stylized. As soon as I close this, you'll notice that my aircraft groups and my different types of things have changed their style so that they look a little bit more something that you could see, like a basic icon representing what it is. Again, you can use whatever feels appropriate for you there. Underneath that, we have the ability to show group members. Notice if I click on my groups here, I can see my group members as ghosts. If I want to set this as all groups, this is going to show everybody at the same time, which can lead for a very cluttered screen. You can also disable the showing of group members if you desire to, too. Notice we can see the contact emissions regardless of what you do. Showing plotted paths enables us to see the path a particular unit's doing. So if I click on this one, these guys are currently forming up. I would have a little line, such as that would tell me exactly where I'm traveling to. Again, you can see that very clearly after I went ahead and placed that piece. Below here, we have Show Diagnostics, which is going to give us some extra information up at the top of the screen. It's going to tell us what we're doing. You can see right now we're writing to a CSV as well as TAC view. You can also see what our pulse time is, which is how long it's taking us to run our scenario, as well as active units. We have the ability to do color data blocks as well, which simply is going to light things up a slightly different color. Now you can see that this is blue. If I shut this off, it's going to return back to the white. We have the ability to show country and city names. Keep in mind this is going to be separate from whatever Stamen setting that you set. We also have the ability to use a personal map profile. For example, if I have the map exactly the way I want, let's say I want to do this. Let's say a map settings. I want to go ahead and use virtual Earth. I don't need BMNG. I can then click Save Current Map Profile as that and tell it to use this profile. So now every time I load it, it's going to keep all my settings like that. The next page is going to be the message log. This is going to give us the ability to go ahead and define what information is stored in our message log down here. To enable an item, you simply click the little checkbox next to it. If we want to have a pop-up appear when something happens, we can click this box here. If we want to show a balloon, which is simply going to be a little box that appears next to the unit, we can click here. And this simply says only display this if we're at this particular time scale. The next menu gives us our game music as well as game sound. Now, if you want to disable this, all you have to do is click this box off. If you want to turn it on, you can click it on. You can adjust the volume any which way you'd like. To the right of that, we have the game speed options. Now, these options are a little bit tricky to play with. The first one for extra memory protection is a little redundant. Basically, what this is going to do is it's going to change the way things are processed in order to protect systems that have low amounts of RAM. Non-friendly range symbols is simply going to show you the range of other targets that we are aware of that we don't actually have any information on. So for example, if I click on the SAM site right here, you'll notice I have the little red dashed line kind of going around it. We can display country and city names. Again, that's going to be also duplicated if we choose to use Stamen. Going down here, we have display targeting vectors. That's going to be the exact same thing as coming in here and going ahead and selecting your targeting vectors here as well. We also have the ability to show the ghost group members, which we saw earlier. We have the disallowing switching to high performance power scheme. Again, that's going to be the opposite of the setting that we saw on this side of things. Also down here, we have the ability to select friendly range symbols, which will simply be these ones here. We have the ability to show illumination vectors, as well as all contact emissions. Keep in mind under map settings, we have a little bit more granular control of those items. At the very, very bottom, just like we had over in general, is the ability to set the automatic saving. The next menu allows you to link TACView directly onto your Command PE if you want a real-time visualization. Simply link this directly to your TACView. Our last menu we have here is going to be the hover info, but for us, this is going to be enabled by default and not have any special settings. So that's it as far as game options goes.